afternoon, everyone. Once again, thank you for those of you that are joining us on today's webinar. I am Siyasanga Mkhabalala, and I will be your facilitator for today. The investment landscape has evolved significantly over the past couple of years. Historically, there was limited access to retail investors to participate in realizing returns in alternative assets. Things are, however, changing, and they are changing very fast. Investments that are considered mainstream today were unthinkable 3 to 5 years ago, pre-COVID. Today, by a click of a button, you are buying crypto, exploring your options on a crowdfunding platform, looking for investment opportunities in cannabis, and whether you prefer a Malo or a Shannon, wine is an opportunity that has been introduced into the market at large. For investors, however, all that I've mentioned opens up a universe of new opportunities. But what does it exactly mean? Today, I am joined by a group of individuals that are deemed experts in alternative asset opportunities. But before I introduce my amazing panel of experts, please note that you need to attend the full webinar for your CPD points and email jenna@growvest.co.za for your certificate. Christian, could you please do me the honor of pulling up our first poll so we can gauge the audience that's joining us today? Thank you, Christian. Can we get the results, please? Nice to see that we've got people that know about alternative assets and a lot of our audience that is new to alternative assets. Don't worry, we are here to help you. As mentioned before, today I'm joined by a group of individuals who will be sharing their vast knowledge with us. Today, I am joined by Roland, Yaliwe, Stembiso, Pia, and Adele. Guys, thank you for joining us today and for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your knowledge with us. So starting with Roland, and then we'll go to Yaliwe, Stembiso, Pia, and Adele. Could you please introduce yourselves and the entity that you'll be sharing knowledge on today, and what role you play in that entity? Roland?
Thank you so much, Sia. Thank you so much, Sia. My name is Roland Peens. I've been in fine wine in South Africa for more than 20 years. I'm the director of a retail and cellaring business called Wine Cellar. And we've been exploring wine investment locally and abroad for the last 15, 20 years. And over the last 5 to 10 years, it really has boomed, not only internationally, but locally. So I'm here to offer some insight into the trading and investment of wine locally here in South Africa.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Roland. Yaliwe?
Hi, Sia, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, and hi to the attendees. So I'm Yaliwe Soko, and I chair the United Africa Blockchain Association, which is a nonprofit organization that was formulated to accelerate the adoption of blockchain and crypto to an extent across the continent. And at the moment, we have a presence in 11 countries in Africa, educating, bringing about employability skills, as well as empowering communities across the continent. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Yaliwe. Stembiso?
Oh, good afternoon to everyone, panel and attendees alike. I'm Stembiso Zware, co-founder and director of GoGetter. GoGetter Africa is an equity-based crowdfunding platform where African entrepreneurs meet global investors. We afford African entrepreneurs the opportunity to raise cash from as little as 1.5 million rands to about 10 million rands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tembiso. And we can see that you got a Go Getter t-shirt on. Talk about being the brand. Pierre?
Hi, hi everybody. Thanks for having me. Good to be here. My name's Pierre van der Hoven. I'm a founder and director of a cannabis and hemp fund called Silverleaf Investments. We launched about 2 years ago as a Section 12J, and we're now morphing into a full-blown venture capital business. So essentially, we are a fund, we raise capital, we invest in cannabis and hemp businesses in Southern Africa.
Thank you, Pierre. And last but not least, Adele.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So maybe just to give you a quick idea of what the JSE is all about. We are a formal capital marketplace with a 135-year history behind it. Essentially, this marketplace allows companies to list their shares, which then investors would purchase in exchange for capital, and that capital is then used by the company, which then is ploughed back into their business. That's considered the primary market. And at the same breath, it's also a marketplace for buyers and sellers to get together and actually exchange shares. So they buy and sell shares, and that is considered the secondary marketplace. We are probably the 19th biggest exchange globally, with a market cap of over 19 trillion rand. So quite sizable and has quite a history behind it. And then lastly, what I do at the JSE, I form part of the primary markets team at the JSE with a specific focus on specialist securities. So these are basically investment products, investment securities, things like exchange traded funds, exchange traded notes, structured products, etc. And my job really is to go and find banks and companies to list these products onto the exchange, and at the same time also create awareness about these products out in the market.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adele. Just a quick one on a personal front. Do I get an invite to that lovely coffee shop that you're sitting at?
Yeah, we'll talk afterwards.
Awesome stuff. I've got your email address. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys. Right, now that we know who exactly who's going to be sharing their insights with us, we'd like some feedback from the audience just to detect who in the audience has explored the options mentioned by our panelists. So, Christian, can you pull up the next poll cards, please? Thank you, Christian. Pretty sure we've got some fast fingers among us, so can we get the results? Lovely, lovely. For those of you who chose other, could you just share it with us in the Q&A, what other options that you've invested in so that we can know and share our knowledge with the rest of the audience as well. Thank you, Christian, and to our audience. So, Pierre, starting off with you. We've been hearing a lot about the decriminalization of cannabis for recreational use in our homes. What does that actually mean? Also, could you please brief us and take us through where the legislation currently is in South Africa? Sorry, Pierre, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. It's a complicated answer, but I'll try to keep it simple.
Awesome.
Yes, there's a lot of talk about adult use, but that is the one section that is still not totally legal. We have a variation of adult use that is legal, and that's private use. So our constitutional court was ahead of the world and declared private use legal in 2018. The big thing going on right now, and that's why it's in the press so much, is that it doesn't allow trade. And there are a lot of people in the industry who are pushing very hard to include trade, and thereby also including small farmers. So that's why there's a lot of noise about adult use. However, medical use has been legal for quite a while. You have to apply for a license from SAHPRA, the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority. They're very expensive to get, and they have very high quality standards, which they should have, because we're talking about medicine. So public safety and efficacy is top of mind, and it costs quite a lot of money to get into that sector of the industry. The other part of the industry where we are literally at the beginning of is hemp. So hemp is a form of cannabis. It's defined as having low THC, so it has no psychoactive effects. About 300 permits have been issued by the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, and we're now going into planting season. So as we speak right now, you may hear a little bit of noise, and you can see my hair's blowing. I'm on the Dachau belt. I'm down on the coast, and the big scramble now is to get seeds into the country and get hemp into the ground. Hemp is a fascinating 50,000 product industry. It can range from biofuels to food, replace plastics. It's got green economy. It's really an exciting industry, and we're really at the beginning of that sector of the industry. So that's a bit of an overview. I hope it's simple enough. I don't want to complicate things, but I'm very happy to take questions in the Q&A session.
Thanks, Pierre. And then another thing is, what type of investment periods am I looking at when I invest in cannabis? And what are the rewards that I can expect from an investment in cannabis?
Yeah, so what's happening in cannabis globally is it's exploded in Canada. Germany's about to legalize. 37 US states have legalized to a certain extent. And for many people, there's always arguments around cryptocurrency, but it's the fastest growing industry in the world. So while it's at a relatively high risk stage, the rewards are going to be spectacular over the 5-year period. At Silverleaf Investments, we talk about a 20% IRR. The first couple of years will probably be tough as the industry gets going and as the legalization and the end of prohibition kicks in. But in the last couple of years, we're expecting phenomenal returns, and we really look forward to super returns over the investment period. So if I had 10,000 Rand right now, I'd be investing it in the cannabis stocks. I would look for people to understand the industry because it's quite a complicated industry. The Silverleaf team is very diverse, very experienced, and we understand what's going on in cannabis. So an investment in the Silverleaf fund, in my opinion, would be a very lucrative one over the investment period.
And then Pierre, I've got 10K currently sitting in my bank account. How am I getting it to you?
We've got a website, www.silverleaf.co.za. You just click on how to invest. There is a form you fill in, and we'll guide you through the process. It's relatively simple. This is raised via 12J. We then did a raise via Easy Equity.
Apologies, guys. Seem to be getting some technical difficulties here. But just to reiterate what he's mentioned is that you can invest your 10K on their website, Silverleaf Investments, and you can also find them on Easy Equities, right, Pierre?
Yeah, and we're looking at GoGetter, which you're going to hear about later. And as I said, our back office is very professionally administered.
Awesome.
We got technical issues.
Thank you so much for that insight, Pierre. Roland, so conventionally, we've been exposed that the only investment opportunity in wine would be to collect different types of wine. How do I get started in investing in wine?
Hi, Sia. Yeah, well, you have to learn about it. You have to know about it. You have to drink a lot of wine. You have to taste a lot of wine. Anything that you invest in, you need to know as much as you can about the industry. And so that would be the fun part. And then really starting to understand which wines are or have the potential to appreciate in price over time. And which wines are these? They're the wines that maybe sell out the quickest. They sell for the highest price on the secondary market. The ones with the best winemakers and directors. So a real understanding of each fine wine brand would be needed to direct your purchase.
That's awesome. So just between me and you, right? I am expecting a package from Wine Club. Am I sharing this with my friends over dinner, or am I setting aside these bottles of wine?
Right. So fine wines are different to the everyday wines you would have in a supermarket, and that's probably at the 150 to 300 rand level, where it switches from being a commodity that you would drink in volume every Tuesday with your spaghetti bolognese, and then the wine that you really want to keep, and either keep for a very special occasion or sell it after a certain period for an investment. And the difference really is that one is focused 100% on quality. The winemaker chooses the quality route down the line, whereas one is made for a certain price level. So one needs to find out which are the fine wines and which are the commodity wines. That's really important. And then storing the wines in the right environment is key. We have a cellar of 500,000 bottles in Observatory, Cape Town, where we store a large component of South Africa's fine wine. And a lot of our clients would then store them in the right conditions. And then once they're at a point where they felt they've appreciated, or they need the money, or they want to liquidate, that's when they would sell them either through a brokerage, which we have, or through an auction platform, which we partner with at Strauss & Co. Fine Wines.
Oh, so you're going to assess which of my wines are to be shared with my friends and which I'm sending to you to store.
Well, see, generally the ones that appreciate the most are the ones that are the rarest. So you have to actually get onto an allocation list to get some of these wines. So I'll mention brands like Sadi Family, Mullineux, Arlight, Savage. These wines often sell out on allocation or very close to release. So one can't buy them from the regular channels. One needs to find a merchant where you can find these top-end wines. Or really search around. So it does take some time. You might need to deploy that 10,000 Rand over 6 months in order to catch the various releases. We do have a 100,000 and 50,000 Rand product at Wine Cellar, which is a basket, a more mixed basket of fine wines. But for 10,000 Rand, you would get around 18 to 20 bottles. And if you were to store those for over 5 years, we have seen price appreciations of around 20% annually on the wines that we've been selling for investment over the last 5 years. So there's significant upside to these wines.
So what's your actual recommended period of investment?
Well, I've had wines that are over 150 years old, Sia, and they don't lose their value. They only gain in value over that term. Livex, which is an index of fine wine in London, has been growing at 7% annualized for the last 2 decades. And if you analyze prices to the previous century, it's been consistent growth over that period. And there's no reason why fine wine would suddenly not become favored anymore. There are more and more wealthy people, more and more striving to drink fine wines. They become incredible brands. If I mention Cristal or Lafite or Mouton Rothschilds or Penfolds Grange, these are some of the greatest brands in the world. So it's an incredible industry. It's a £5 billion industry, and it keeps on growing, and the investment in local and international wine keeps on developing.
Awesome stuff. Roland, my birthday is coming up in December. I am adding everything that you've just mentioned to my birthday wish list that is going out to all of my friends.
Great.
Just to encourage the audience, we are taking questions as we go by. So happy for you guys to share your questions for the panel. Thank you so much, Roland. That was really insightful.
Pleasure.
Adele, so when I was in high school, my interpretation of the JSE was that I have to be a high net worth individual to actually step into your offices. Is that true? And what type of investment solutions can the JSE offer me for just 10,000 Rand? Apologies, I think we've got Adele's experiencing some technical issues. We can always come back to her.
Sorry, Sia, I'm back.
Oh,
sorry
back.
about that.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Adele.
Apologies, everyone. It's just one of those things with internet. I think there's load shedding happening as well. So sorry about that. So that's a very good question. I think the JSE has over time tried to be a lot more accommodating. I think traditionally it's always been seen as, you're right, where very expensive players play, or institutional investors, and the playground for retail investors is quite limited. However, there are investment solutions on the exchange that have been specifically catered to meet those needs for an individual retail, as we call a retail investor. I think one of the first things to consider is that whenever you have disposable funds available, that this needs to be money that you are prepared to almost lose, I almost say to talk extremely. This is not money that you need to use to pay your mortgage or your everyday expenses. This needs to be cash that you basically want to do something with. So that's one of the first things, that make sure that the money is disposable. The other thing is, when it comes to choosing what to invest in on the JSE, and as I mentioned, there's quite a lot to choose from. Each of these solutions or choices carry with it a certain risk severity, if I can call it that. So some instruments that are on the exchange are known to be a lot more volatile or more exposed to certain external factors or internal factors, as opposed to other instruments that are probably more diversified, if I can put it that way. So in looking at probably the two most reasonable options for investors who are fairly new to the exchange and don't want to venture out into too much of exotics, and I know this is probably the wrong panel to say that because there's lots of exotics going on at the moment, but if you want to take the traditional point of view of listing on the JSE, you can decide to invest in single stocks, and then I'll pack that in a moment, or in some kind of investment product that has some built-in diversification benefit with it. I think it's important that investors realize that anything that is listed on a formal market like the JSE is subject to market forces. In other words, demand and supply. How investors feel about a perceived investment does impact how prices increase or decrease. So I think that's very important that investors realize that when it's out there in the public market, it is up for scrutiny, and it's traded as investors seeing how they perceive the risk of that company or the benefit that that company or instrument can afford them. So in looking at single stock companies as a start, if you decide to go on the view of just being exposed to one single company, it's important that investors realize that then you are then exposing yourself to that company's specific risk. So if they, as an example, if there's any news or some kind of development around that company specifically, which you have in your portfolio, that will then determine the price of that instrument fluctuating. So the prices will go up and down, depending on what the news is about that company, as an example. So you're subject to the company specific risk and then market risk as well. Remember, there are other market forces at play as well. The exchange rate, as an example, Ukrainian war, things like that. All of that has a big role in determining how stocks perform, whether share prices increase or decrease. So I think it's important that investors realize what they're ultimately exposing themselves to. But with that being said as well, it's often that with investments that carry a higher level of risk, generally there's also a higher level of return associated with it as well. That's the general adage, I would say. Some instruments, some stocks, single stocks, are generally a lot more volatile than others. If you think of some of the small stock companies, which are typically maybe family owned or new, or they are also struggling to build some profitability around their brand, that also impacts how those share prices fluctuate and move up and down. So a company that maybe has a share price of 10 cents one day could easily have a share price of 50 cents the next day. So in nominal terms, if it doesn't sound a lot, but in percentage terms, I mean, that's quite a big move. Other thing to consider when you are invested in single stocks, then you do have the opportunity to reap the benefit of getting dividends as well from those companies. Although that is not always guaranteed. So companies are not required to pay dividends. They can choose to do so if they wanted to. But that is another key benefit of investing in a company, that you do reap the benefit of goodwill, because essentially that's what dividends are. It's a goodwill payment to its investors, its shareholders, to say, we have faith in the company. Here's a bit of extra cash lying around as a goodwill payment. But again, I think investors need to realize that that means that they are severely exposed to one company. So do your homework properly around a single stock if you want to invest in a particular single stock, their profitability, their size, as an example. Look at their balance sheet, their financial statements, if you are inclined to go into that kind of detail. The other possible solution for investors would be to go maybe a bit more conservative in a way, a bit more measured in their risk appetite. And again, like I said, every solution on the JSE has some kind of risk severity layer attached to it. So if you go with something like an exchange traded fund, which is essentially a basket of company shares. So now you're not just one company, it's a range of companies that have been thrown together into a fund. And then this little fund is then broken up into little pieces, units, if you call, and then sold to investors. So you now have the benefit as an investor to not just be severely exposed to one company, but you have the benefit of being exposed to a range of companies. Some will do very well in issue price one day and others will not do well. And in the end, you try and balance out the risk that way. What's also great about ETFs is that you can now use fairly small investment sizes and invest for as little as 300 Rand a month, 500 Rand once off. And there are even service providers that have no minimum whatsoever. So you can invest whatever you have at your disposal to invest, as an example. So I would say, so single stocks has its own complications and benefits and risks. At the same time, with an ETF as well, you know, you have a bit more conservative, maybe your risk is measured, it's contained to a degree, but then it also means that your upside in terms of return is also a bit measured as well. So I think those are probably the two things to consider, and single stocks can typically also be quite expensive. So you have some really expensive stocks if you want to go that route, you know, 1,000, 3,000 Rand for a single share, if you're inclined to do that. Again, understanding the risks behind that. Or you can go the ETF route or an exchange traded note route even as well, which, as I said, you know, it's diversified, and you essentially buy a unit within a fund, as an example, at a very small, minimal, nominal level.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that insight, Adele. Just a question from Patrick in our audience. Does the JSE offer training for individuals?
So we have some really great initiatives that the JSE offers. So there are a couple of ones that are completely free of charge. So depending on whether you're a student or a university student, high school or university, we have the JSE Investment Challenge that we run every year for schools and then for investment students as well. And we also have a virtual trading game as well that allows investors to essentially play around with R1 million of fake money, and they can pick and choose whatever they want. And it's really a game to try and get the highest return from your portfolio. I think it's a 3-month period game. And then you get prizes. I think the top prize, I think, is 60,000 Rand if you're the winner. We've recently just crowned our first winner for the year. in the virtual trading game recently. So that's another avenue for investors to actually pursue if they are a little bit hesitant to really fork out their very hard-earned money, and they're still not really convinced what they want to invest in, but maybe just want to dabble and test out what the exchange is all about. Something like the virtual trading game on our website should be quite a nice segue into the formal capital market.
So I can basically play with fake money before I use my own money.
Absolutely, if you just want to test it out.
I am happy with that before I give you my hard-earned 10,000 Rand.
Promise you're not the only one.
Before we move on to Yaliwe and Thembiso, I'd just like to address a couple of questions that came through for Roland. Roland, I've got a question here that asks, how regulated is the wine investment side of things?
It's not regulated at all. We're a very young industry. It's not regulated in the UK either, and there are quite a few tax benefits there as well. But with lack of regulation, one does get perhaps higher returns. And one must understand that fine wine is a very long-term asset. Wines can last for many, many decades. So who you buy it from, how it's stored, who you do transactions with is very important. There's a trust built into the system, and that trust is really important in a lot of these transactions because it's not formalized.
All right, awesome. And then a question from Tabo. He's asking, is the 20% growth on wine in local ZAR or is it in USD?
That's in local ZAR, and that's price appreciation. So there are costs to broker wines and to sell them on auction platforms. So that needs to be factored in. Obviously, the longer you keep it, that cost does come down. There are also cellaring fees that you need to take into account. It does cost you up to 2% a year to store your wines in the correct condition. So that's important. But because a lot of South African fine wines are mostly exported or exported more than they're consumed locally, when you're buying into South African fine wines, you're buying into somewhat of a hedge because these wines are mostly exported and they do benefit from depreciation in our currency. So we've noticed that prices have increased well above inflation over the last 20 years, and then you still get the price appreciation because of rarity and because of the ultimate quality that aging can bring.
Awesome stuff. Roland, again, my wine drinkers are out for you, hey? I've got a question here from Peter, and he's asking, how easy is it to sell investment wine?
Well, until Strauss & Co., the fine wines came along, it was quite difficult. We've got a brokerage platform on our website, so you literally can list it with us and we can broker it to our clients, or we can put it on the Strauss & Co. investment platform, in auction platform, and then it's relatively easy as long as we have an auction or a price which meets the buyer and the seller, then we can sell the wine, no problem. Of course, it has to be fine wine, so we're not going to sell the wine that's been sitting on top of your fridge for the last 5 years. These need to be wines that are stored carefully, and we do a lot of quality controls here, a lot.
Okay, awesome. So I know there's a lot of questions coming in for Roland. As he takes a sip of a glass of wine, Roland, you should have sent some to our offices, please.
Sorry about that, Sia. Well, if you're really getting into it, as I say, you need to drink more. It is important.
Okay, cool. Guys, before we go to the rest of our questions that we have for Roland and for Pierre, I'd just like to go through crypto with Yaliwe as well as the crowdfunding with Thembiso. So Yaliwe, in 2009, we were all exposed to Bitcoin. And I've been kicking myself ever since because I thought it was a scam. I didn't buy any coin. How did crypto actually originate?
So I think you've already mentioned that Bitcoin was created in 2009 by Satoshi Nakamoto. Obviously, there's been questions around who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Some people believe it was an individual, and some people believe, well, it was a group of developers, though there's somebody that has emerged claiming to be Satoshi at this point in time. So that was the foundation of Bitcoin. And after that, definitely a lot started happening within the cryptocurrency, let me just say timelines. And Obviously, we had other cryptocurrencies coming up called alternative coins. And right now, if you look at coinmarketcap.com, there are over 21,000 cryptocurrencies. So the market has evolved over time. And then we've also seen a lot of projects that have come up that are backed by different things and have different digital currencies.
Thank you so much. And how do I get involved in crypto?
Okay, that's the $1 million question. So there are so many ways to get involved. Obviously, a lot of people would think around, how do I invest in cryptocurrency, right? And of late, I think it has minimized now. There's been a lot of scams. You mentioned that in the first place to say you thought it was a scam. Because there've been a lot of scams that have come up in the name of cryptocurrency, so a lot of people have been burnt. So I'll just give a few guidelines. Firstly, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. If somebody tells you, put in your 10,000 rands and you're going to get 30% returns at the end of the month, that is probably a scam. And if somebody tells you, okay, let me hold your money, you can actually do your own research. So like I mentioned, there is CoinMarketCap. You make CoinMarketCap your friend because you're able to see a lot of the cryptocurrencies, how they're faring, what the markets look like, and you're also able to look at projects individually, go to their website, learn about the project and look at it and say, is it worth investing in, right? So do your own homework, most importantly. And obviously, there are some people that buy cryptocurrency and they hold it, or hodl, as in the crypto term. So hodling is like, okay, I see a project, it looks good. Maybe the cryptocurrency at that point is going for a few cents. I buy some crypto and I hold it and obviously hope for returns at the end of a certain period of time. And there are some people that buy into upcoming projects as early investors. Obviously, some will buy it at a fraction of the price and they get into a contract. Then the cryptocurrency obviously will go up. Well, it goes either way. It could go up, it could go down. So that's another way of getting involved. Also, you could open up an account on an exchange. There's so many cryptocurrency exchanges. So we do have a lot of local exchanges as well in South Africa. Obviously, there's Valor, there's Luno, right? There's Chainex, Altcoin Trader. You could open an exchange account, trade cryptocurrencies, just the way you would trade Forex. You could buy and sell. So those are some of the ways in which you could get involved. And maybe just echoing Adele's words, obviously it's a very volatile market, right? So what you see today could be affected by what's happening in the news. So you find maybe Elon Musk is a big fan of Dogecoin. And today he says something about Dogecoin and the price just pumps, right? Or something negative is said about a certain cryptocurrency and the markets just go down. At some point, Bitcoin was a few cents. And at some point, Bitcoin was $60,000 for one, right?
That's
and
when
at
I was
a certain level.
Absolutely.
So the people that bought Bitcoin maybe at a few cents and it went to either $3,000 or it went to $20,000 or even $60,000 made a lot of money. And maybe the people that bought it at $60,000 and then the markets crashed, lost a lot of money. So it's kind of, you can't tell what's going to happen to the markets tomorrow. There's also another way that I call for people that are really cautious about getting into the crypto space, and maybe you want to invest, you could do what we call staking. So staking is more like, maybe in simpler terms, saving, right? So you save a certain cryptocurrency, maybe most probably maybe a stable coin. So maybe I'll give a bit of a definition of stable coins. So stable coins are cryptocurrencies that were created to mitigate the volatility of crypto, right? So stable coins are usually pegged one-to-one with a fiat currency, kind one-to-one with the dollar. USDC is one-to-one with the dollar. And I know South Africa now has the stable coin, which is one-to-one with the South African rand. So if you want to maybe mitigate the risk of losing money in crypto, or you can stake a stable coin and then you earn rewards. There are some platforms that offer you like weekly rewards, right? For saving, or let me just call it staking, right? But it's the same thing as you saving your crypto, not using it for a specified period of time, and then you earn crypto because of that. So staking is also another option. And for those that just want to learn, there are actually learn to earn programs that you could be part of. So instead of using your own money to invest in crypto, you can maybe widen your knowledge on crypto, blockchain, and the entire ecosystem, and then you get to earn cryptocurrencies. So for example, you dedicate time to learn about a certain blockchain, how it functions, and then you earn a crypto, right, based on that blockchain. So that's another way of really getting crypto. So maybe just going back to your 10K question, if I was given that 10K, obviously I need to invest it somewhere. I would look into a project, study the project, and look at its viability, usually what it's backed by, do a little bit of research on the team, right? Make sure you get to understand who the team members are, look them up on LinkedIn, and then invest some of that money. If you believe the project is something that is going to grow, or you'll get returns on your cryptocurrency, you could invest the $200. The time I really liked the science project, and I invested like $200 within a short period of time. I made like $4,000. So things like that can happen, right? Or you can make more money investing in crypto, but then you have to really take your time to understand. We also do offer classes. So at the United Africa Blockchain Association, our classes are free. So we can guide you on certain things to say, okay, look into this, not specifically look into a certain cryptocurrency, but look out for certain things. If you see this is a red flag, we can give you that type of knowledge.
Oh, awesome. So you are there to guide us as soon as we get into crypto.
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay, cool. That's good, because like I love how you touched on something where you say that you touched on Forex and crypto, is that I've been getting a lot of DMs on Instagram with these Forex guys telling me that I can make 50 million in just 2 weeks, and I can walk away with a Porsche, own a house in Sandton, and so forth. What is the actual difference between crypto and Forex? Or is it the same thing?
It's not the same thing. I think though there are quite a number of similarities, right? Obviously, you have to trade Forex. You can trade crypto as an option, right? And then obviously with Forex, you're trading different currencies and commodities. Crypto, you are trading crypto, right?
Oh, okay.
So you're trading different assets, different projects that are listed on a certain exchange, right? So you either, it's the same way of buying, selling, all those stop loss, a lot of features that you find on our Forex trading platform, you will find on a crypto trading platform. But the difference is that while Forex has different commodities and currencies, crypto has crypto assets.
Okay, cool. Just a quick one here from Glenn Yadue, is he would like to know, what are the costs involved for a company to raise funds with Bitcoin?
Okay, so firstly, you have to register the company, right? And what are you trying to raise funds for, and what type of value is the company bringing to the blockchain ecosystem? There are some things that are quite critical. Obviously, if you want to open an exchange, right, that lists different crypto assets, offers cash in and cash out options, you can raise money through, there are programs whereby blockchain foundations will fund you to list their token, right? So there are also grants programs. So you can apply for grants programs when you go to all these different websites. You see different grants for different things, right? And also your project, are you building your project on a blockchain? So if you're building your project on a specific blockchain, that blockchain foundation obviously has funds that are allocated to developers that want to build products on top of that blockchain. So there are different ways, especially going the grants route. So grants, and these are equity-free grants, by the way. So you could get a grant that way. And also UNICEF has been giving out grants lately. I think about $100,000 for people that want to build blockchain and crypto-based products that obviously cater to children. And I think it's about 100,000. That's also equity-free. So there are platforms where you can apply for a grant, and the grants process is very simple, usually on most of these websites.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Yaliwe. So I need to stop kicking myself because there's still hope for me.
There's a lot of hope for you.
Oh, okay, cool. I can still make money. I can still make money. Okay, that's music to my ears. So, Thembiso, with crowdfunding, I know GoGetter was launched this year. What differentiates your platform from the other platforms around the world?
Oh, around the world?
The whole
Look,
world.
the whole world, the full world.
The full world.
So I think just to give you some context, we're an African-based equity crowdfunding platform as GoGetter. And what we've seen is that African entrepreneurs have a very, hard journey to walk when it comes to raising capital from the traditional sources such as VCs and banks. So when we identified this gap, my co-founders, late last year, prior to our launch, we said, why not grow the African economy? Why not get Africans to invest in the African economy? Africa has many problems. Entrepreneurs in Africa are hungry. Different parts of Africa have different problems, and let's give the retail investor base, being me and you, an opportunity to actually invest into making a difference on our continent, And I think primarily what we've done is that we've said our platform is mainly just to crowdfund Africa forward. Nothing more, nothing less. We want to grow the African economy. We want to see Africa grow. It's a nascent industry. Africa's been very, very, we've been behind the curve, and it's time for us to catch up. We've got our own problems, and we've got a global investor database. Why do we can get money from anywhere in the world, but I want you and I and everyone else on this panel to be able to be a part of that change. So I think the differentiator here is that we list African businesses only from the 54 countries on the continent, and we give them access to an investor base that is global. I think that's the major differentiator from ourselves and our competitors being in the United States and Canada and the likes.
Okay, so you're being the change that you want to see in the world.
Of course. Starts at home. Try to start at home.
What types of investment opportunities can one find on the platform?
Look, so with our platform, we are sector agnostic, okay? So we look at anything and everything. The only things that we don't do, of course, are the good stuff. So as to say, the sin businesses, for lack of a better word. But I think right now, if you go into our platform right now, GoGetter.Africa, you'll find manufacturing, you'll find telecoms, you'll find agriculture, and you find modern art. And over the next couple of weeks, there'll be some good news in the pipeline and some new listings, actually. We've got some African businesses coming in from different parts of Africa, which is giving us as South Africans a chance to invest abroad and also just to test the market, you know what I'm saying? So we look at anything and everything, but right now we've got those 4 industries on the platform, and we're looking to dabble into other industries now as we're going forward.
Awesomeness. And the minimum investment period?
So our minimum investment period is, so I think more than anything, you should consider an investment in GoGetter because it's an equity investment. You should consider it a medium to long-term investment. I think that's the first thing that we need to make clear. If you want to make a change, you're not looking for a quick buck tomorrow. It's not like you're going onto a trading platform and you're buying today and you're selling tomorrow. More than anything, we want to see the capital appreciation of the money. So you're looking at about a 5-year, maybe 6-year investment horizon on your investment.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Thembiso, for that insight. So ladies and gentlemen, Roland, Yaliwe, Stembiso, Pierre, and Adele. I meet with my financial advisor at least once a quarter. And the main thing that he keeps on reiterating to me is risk appetite. So, am I cuddling with puppies or swimming with sharks in all of these investment opportunities? And if I'm swimming with sharks, am I in a cage or is this a free dive? Roland, you can go first.
Well, I don't see any of the other opportunities where you can actually consume the product. I suppose you can to a hemp and cannabis point of view, but if everything else ends up being worthless, the wine will still be delicious to drink. So there's your risk.
Music to my ears. I'm happy to drink the wine. I'm happy to drink the wine. Pierre, on your side, how important is my risk appetite when investing in cannabis?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. In some ways, the cannabis industry is very new, so it's a little bit like swimming with sharks, but you have a cage.
Apologies to our audience. I think we just lost Pierre there. He did mention that he's on a farm and he's got some technical difficulties. As soon as he joins us, he'll be able to answer the question at hand. Stembiso, am I playing with puppies or am I swimming with sharks?
So funny you ask. So on our Go Getter platform, you get an opportunity to cuddle with puppies and to swim with sharks. So it's a very wide array of investment opportunities that we'd be listing on our platform. Some are asset backed, which could give you some comfort so that you know that there's an asset attached to it. If something goes wrong tomorrow, you can sell the asset and you can make some of your money back. Might not be drinking the wine, but at least there'll be something in your pockets, you know. And then on the other hand, you might say, okay, I'm a bit bullish, so let me just get in the water and let's see what the sharks have in store for us. So we're sitting on either spectrum, but fundamentally we've got it's early stage businesses, so the risk is much higher than your normal investment opportunities that you'll get in the traditional markets.
Right, awesome. Yaliwe, I've officially stopped kicking myself, but what am I doing? Am I swimming,
Okay.
swimming with sharks or playing with puppies?
So you are swimming with the sharks because this is a very new and misunderstood industry. But the consolation that you should have is that you're swimming towards the future, right?
Okay.
Whether we like it or not, the tech behind cryptocurrencies, which is the blockchain, has a lot of benefits to the African continent for different things. And to mostly the African continent, let me just say that, as much as there are profits to be gained or losses to be made at the end of the day, but the future when it comes to the tech is very bright, and you're gaining a position of being one of the experts for the future.
Awesome, thank you so much for that insight. Adele, I'm putting my money into the JSE. This is my last 10K. Up until I get paid at the end of this month, what's happening with my 10,000 rands?
Mute.
Sorry, guys, due to load shedding and some technical difficulties, I think we lost Adele there. But Pierre is back with cannabis. Pierre,
Yeah,
which one is
thank you. Sorry, we got bombed out there. I was saying you are swimming with sharks, but you have a cage, and the cage is Silverleaf.
Okay.
So we'll protect the investors. It's going to be the fastest growing industry in the world. It is exploding everywhere. The number of products is absolutely spectacular if you include hemp. The medical benefits have been proven. So this is not only a long-term play, it straddles all industries. It's a tech play, it's a primary agriculture play, it's a high-tech medical play, it's biofuels, it's green economy, it's save the world, it's got everything. So cannabis is definitely an industry of the future, but it's still early stage. So at this stage, the risks are reasonably high, but the return should be spectacular in the medium term.
Thank you so much, Pierre. So Adele, Roland has told me I'm swimming with sharks, but I've got a glass of wine. So I'm a happy woman. Ted took me through, I could be playing with puppies, but I could potentially also be diving with the sharks. Yaliwe told me that it is a free dive, and I'm right there with the sharks. Pierre told me I'm diving in with the sharks, but I've got a cage, and the cage is civilian. What's happening at the JSE?
So I definitely think if you're going single stocks, that's definitely aggressive. It's particularly if you're only exposing yourself to one company, because you're just prone to market forces, depending on demand and supply and what's happening externally in terms of news, etc. So very aggressive if you're going single stocks. But at the same breath, you also have investment products that tries to mitigate that risk through diversification. So by bundling different stocks into a fund, which then you sell a unit to investors, that's another solution that helps to manage that risk. If you want to, you can try and mitigate your own risk as well. So you can choose the various single stocks and put your own portfolio together, and that way try and mitigate your own risk. So there's opportunity, whichever way you look at it.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for that insight. We're just going to take a couple of questions from the audience, and then afterwards we'll go into closing remarks. Just a quick one, Wilton, definitely, yes, the recording will be available for everyone. Adele, there's a question here that asks, how secure in relation to integrity of the companies is your investment, if not on the JSE?
So if I understand correctly, it's asking how well are the companies regulated? I'm guessing that's the question. So every company that comes to the market and every instrument that is listed on the exchange needs to meet our specific listing requirements. And those are quite stringent, very highly regulated. So it's really scrutinized by our issue regulation team to make sure that these companies indeed meet our listing requirements when they list eventually onto the JSE. Similarly with products as well. Some of these products are also regulated by the FSCA, which is our chief capital regulator. So there's almost like a double layer of regulation. So these are highly regarded companies and instruments on the exchange. These are not, for lack of a better term, bucket shops. These are not fly-by-nights. These are highly scrutinized investment opportunities.
All right. Thank you so much, Adele. Mbizo, there's a question here from Crispin. He's asking, what is the cost to list and how does an investor exit their investment on GoGetter?
Oh, great question. So there is absolutely no cost attached to listing your business onto our platform. We have waived the listing fee completely to allow for entrepreneurs to actually come into the platform freely and to be vetted by our investment committee and go through our due diligence process, okay? And also just allows more access to, to the guys who actually are really early stage, the guys with the brilliant ideas. For exit mechanisms, we are looking to create a liquidity event for each of the investment opportunities that we have on the platform. Right now, there aren't any. So, but we always negotiate some sort of exit mechanism with the entrepreneurs after a 5 to 6 year period. I hope that answers you sufficiently.
Perfect answer. There's a question here, Yaliwe, from Uluzubo, and he's asking, what are your thoughts on the impact of the value of Bitcoin by Bitcoin halving and Bitcoin mining?
Okay, so obviously, when halving happens, it creates a scarcity, right? So obviously, there's a perception that Bitcoin will rise in value, which is quite true. But obviously, like I mentioned earlier, it's a very volatile market and investment option. So anything can happen anytime, and also affected by what's happening within the markets. Mining, at this point in time, obviously, as halving happens, the rewards that are given to miners also that's halved, right? So initially, let's say if the miners were getting 25 Bitcoin, they'll be getting 12.5 Bitcoin. As the halving continues, they'll get half of that. So the amount of Bitcoin they receive is reduced, But sometime, even if it's reduced, the value of the Bitcoin could have gone up at that time. So it doesn't affect them that much, but it can go either way. So I have no direct answer to say this is the right answer, this is the wrong answer, but it does create some form of scarcity, which could affect the price of the currency.
Thank you so much, Yaliwe. Before we go to closing remarks, I'd like to thank the panelists for sharing their insights today. And we've been getting a lot of questions where panelists could share their details. So Christian, could you do me the favor of pulling up that last poll so we can see who's interested in what and who's drinking which wine with Roland? Thank you so much, Christian. And for everyone who's interested in the JSE, you'll just need to list the assistance of a broker for you to get started on the JSE. But Adele, there was a question here that spoke about the training. Is there a website or somewhere where people can go to get full training?
So they can definitely visit our JSE website, jse.co.za. You can choose there, I think, find a broker would be an option. Alternatively, by searching on our website, you'll find the virtual trading game as a solution, as I mentioned, or the JSE Investment Challenge is another opportunity to play around essentially with virtual money.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adele. I appreciate that. So closing remarks starting with Yaliwe. Why crypto and why is my 10,000 coming to you? Sorry, you muted, Yaliwe.
I actually thought I was not muted. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the future, right? And this is an opportunity for you to become a stakeholder in the digital revolution, which is the fourth industrial revolution. As Africans, we've been recipients for a very long time, but this is an opportunity for us to actually be at the same playing field as the rest of the world. So I think it's a good opportunity to jump on.
Thank you. Pierre, why is my 10,000 Rand coming to you?
Cannabis is exploding globally. It's being legalized across the world. The medical benefits are being recognized across the world. Hemp is just starting, and it's becoming a critical industry to solve problems that we're facing in the climate change, the green economy. South Africa is host to some of the best genetics in the world. We've got low cost of labor, and the whole world is watching us because they know that the leader in the future for the cultivation of cannabis will come out of Africa. So we are poised for a period of exceptional growth. The investment the people who put in 10 grand over the next 5 years.
Just to let everyone know, we will be sharing Silverleaf's websites with you, so you can get more insight on what Pierre has just discussed, just because of the technical difficulties that he's going through. Mbitho, why Go Getter?
Lo, listen, yeah, Go Getter is where the African entrepreneurs meet the investor database of the world, you know. And also just to echo that is that there's a massive adoption of digital finance and mobile money in Africa. You know, there's a low penetration of traditional financial institutions. There's a cultural fit for Africa between crowdfunding and how community investing works, i.e. Dokfela, Stokvels, and how that stuff works. You know, Africans understand it, and Go Get is the platform that's going to redefine Africa's narrative. So that's it. Why go-getter? We're redefining Africa's narrative.
Adele, you have changed the narrative. I do not need to be a high net worth individual for me to invest in the JSE. So outside of everything that you've given us, what more can you add as onto how I can get started with investing in the JSE?
So I think if you're looking for a marketplace that has highly regulated companies and instruments, that is liquid and that can be bought and sold on a daily basis, then the JSE is definitely a consideration for investors. As I mentioned as well, there are lots of solutions available that really makes it a possibility for investors to invest smaller amounts at their disposal. As I said, 300 Rand once off, and even there's a no minimum as well, options as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunity within the traditional space. If you're looking for traditional, there's some great alternatives here like we've heard today, but the JSE will probably be for those that are looking to maybe go down the straight and narrow, I guess.
Oh, awesome. So I can set up like a 300 Rand debit order to the JSE?
Not to the JSE, but definitely by a service provider,
Okay.
most certainly, yeah.
All right, cool. Roland, I think you know why I saved you for last. Why am I putting my money into that lovely juice?
Well, Sia, wine is magic. There isn't another product on this planet which is created with so much allure, so much deliciousness, so much complexity, so much mystique as wine. And it's more than a lifestyle; it's a way of life. It's an incredible industry, and learning about it, investing in it, has huge rewards down the line. So, very small niche. But growing industry that's really solid as an investment case over the long term, internationally, but more and more so locally as well.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to note that, yes, there are some questions that we didn't get to. We'll give you some responses offline, but thank you so much to our lovely panel. I see from as easy as the 1 Rand investment on easy equity to being a high net worth individual on the JSE, there's a lot of opportunities out there in alternative assets. Now, thank you to the panelists one more time for giving us an opportunity to know what to do with that 13th check as it comes near. Thank you so much for your time. And just a friendly reminder, if you'd like your CPD certificate, please email jenna@growvest.co.za and we'll get that certificate to you. That's if you stayed till the end. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks, yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.